No ACC basketball tonight. Coming up this weekend, SMU will be in town to play NC State. Boston College will be at North Carolina. Duke at Wake Forest in a game that, Wake has been playing really well. They have won 6 in a row. They beat the Tar Heels on Tuesday night. It is a losable game for the Blue Devils, although I will say that I think that you could build a Walmart in between where Duke is and where Wake is as a basketball team, but road, relatively young team. Wake Forest could play inspired, and that game could get interesting. Wouldn't be completely shocked, but I do think that every game that Duke loses between now and the end of the season in some ways is by choice. Brett Friedlander, ACC columnist, Saturday Road at B. Fried. ACC joins us on the Adam Gold Show. How inaccurate was what I just said?
It wasn't. It was pretty accurate. There's Duke, and then there's that next tier with Clemson and Louisville and maybe Wake and maybe one other. And then there's everybody else. So, yeah.
So this number, I saw this, and actually I might have seen it from something that you retweeted. I don't know. It's a cycle on Twitter and Blue Sky. The ACC this morning has 8 teams. Actually, they have 7 sub-500 teams in overall record. 7. That's like Mid-American Conference quality. 7 teams that are sub-500 in record. 1 that is 500. And Cal, who won last night, in kind of a surprise, 10-9. They have 8 teams that are over 100 in the net rating, which means that basically half of your conference games, if you lose them, are bad losses.
Yep.
How do you overcome that?
You don't. And that's why Wake Forest at 15-3 with a nice win against Michigan and now, beating Carolina. I didn't check today, but going into yesterday's game, they were number 77 in the net.
Right.
And in the SEC, every road game except for the ones at my alma mater, South Carolina, is a quad 1 game.
Yep.
And in the ACC, you got maybe 2 or 3. It's tough. The net is a flawed system, but the ACC isn't helping itself.
It's a flawed system, but it's the one they use, right? So,
and not only that, but the ACC isn't helping itself.
Right.
Boston College and Georgia Tech and Notre Dame and, good God, Miami. Not good. Virginia Tech. 5
teams outside the top 150 in the net. By the way, for the Blue Devils tonight, or rather on Saturday, as we sit here today, it is a quad 1 opportunity, but only barely because Wake is 75th in the latest net rating. Now, the easiest way to improve your net is to keep winning, and it almost doesn't matter who you beat. Right. It is possible. And so when you look at a team like Wake, who's got 1 good win on their resume, or when you look at Clemson, who's got 2, or Pitt that's got 2, Louisville, 2, as long as they keep winning, their numbers will be fine. But that's the trick, because they've got to keep winning these games, and if you're not really good, you can lose to anybody. Carolina proved it. I think Carolina's, among all these teams in the league, Brett, don't you think Carolina, based on the win over UCLA and the fact that it says North Carolina on their uniform, if they have a good record in the league, I just don't think there's a way they're going to get left out of this field. But,
especially since they're 38 in the net right now. They've got a high enough net where just win the games you're supposed to win, and you're fine.
Don't lose to Stanford.
Problem is, you lose to Stanford, and now that argument that we don't have any bad losses is out the window.
Right. Yeah. That is it. You can't afford the bad losses if you don't have enough good wins. They've got, I think, one quad 1 win. They lost at Louisville. Now we're finding out, it appears that Louisville might be legitimately good. I mean, good in relation to this league.
Yeah, I think Louisville is legitimately good. Period. I mean, Pat Kelsey is really doing a good job, and they've got some talent on that team.
Again, I watched Duke go there. Now this was before. This was like 4 weeks ago. It was Duke's second ACC game. They went there and they could have named their final score. It seemed.
But you also have to remember that Louisville lost its big man Kason Pryor 7 games into the season. They were also at that particular time, I think, down to 7 guys in the rotation because of injuries. Pat Kelsey had to reinvent that team as he was going along, and I think that it took a couple of games, to figure it out. And if you look at them, the only losses they have are to ranked teams.
Yeah, no, Louisville has. The game against Tennessee didn't go well. They weren't really in that game.
It's also the second game of the year with 12 new players.
And I remember the hype. And it was fine. I loved the hype, and I love Pat Kelsey's energy. The video of him going around campus, making sure that all the students were going to be there, was absolutely great. And I do think he is going to be a really, really good coach there. But it's good to see Louisville, one of the basketball Illuminati in the league, playing well. Now, if we could just get Syracuse back online, schools like that, or Georgia Tech, NC State. Get some of the schools.
But NC State, you got to give Kevin Keatts credit for one thing, right? Last year they won 5 games in five days to get to the NCAA tournament, and he thought that was such a good strategy. They're trying to set it up to do it again. Right?
I didn't realize that it was by design. I feel much better about it now. It's funny. I watched the game against Notre Dame. So let's just delve in NC State a little bit. I watched the game against Notre Dame and I thought, man, I think this team could be okay. Maybe they could figure it out. And Jaden Taylor's having a big game, and Middlebrooks is good. I think they played that game without Huntley Hatfield. But it looked to me like they've got some things here. And no.
Part of the problem with NC State, Adam, is that at the end of the game, who's getting the ball? And one time it was Marcus Hill, one time it was Jaden Taylor. This last time it was Breon Pass. They have no clue who their go-to guy is. And when you don't know who your go-to guy is, that's a problem. And that and the fact that they've had double-digit leads in the second half against both Virginia teams and crapped it away. That's a team that has no identity right now.
The loss to Virginia Tech was, I think, of all of these recent losses, I know they lost at home to Cal, and I'm not saying it's unacceptable because, let's be honest, if you're NC State, you can lose to anybody. And you I can't call it an unacceptable loss. As a basketball team right now, as you said, they don't have an identity. I just don't think they're just okay at best, and that means you can lose to anybody. But the way they lost to Virginia Tech after what I thought was playing really well for like 30, almost 35 minutes on the road, and just to completely fall apart at the end. And Duke, I don't think Duke got credit for a win there, right? Jaden Schutt, didn't he score their last 9 points?
Duke got credit for 2 wins last weekend because Jaden Schutt did that to NC State, and then Jalen Blakes did it to Carolina.
But Jalen Blakes brought it up.
Yes, he did.
Post game, that was just classic.
And threw Austin Rivers' name in there too.
My God, yes, he was looking for an Austin Rivers game. I'm not even sure Duke fans want to remember Austin Rivers other than that game. But you're right about State. They don't have that go-to guy. It probably at this point should be Hill because he's the only one who looks like he can get to the rim, and those types of players should be your go-to scorers. They obviously miss Mike James, and I think Kevin Keatts, you don't always get everything you want out of the transfer portal when you rely on it to the extent that they rely on it. I'll just bring up Duke here for a second. The fact that they went into the portal with definite, this is what we need in mind. They were not looking for star level players. They were not looking for anybody to lead them. I need a guard who does this. I need a forward who does this. They got exactly what they needed, complementary pieces out of the portal.
And it works.
They hit on all three. I mean, they are perfect parts of Duke's overall puzzle. Are you afraid at all that the league will soften Duke up? And this is what I've been resigned to talking about because, it's my only concern about this team.
I don't think so, because I think that they're looking up the rafters, and they see how long it's been. It's been a decade now since they put a banner up there. And I think these guys, especially the ones who are only going to be there for 1 year, and I'm talking about Flagg and Malawak and Knipple, those guys know that this is their one shot. I just think that it's very important for John Shire, and he's going to continue to find ways to challenge them. They may lose one, here or there. I mean, maybe it'll be Saturday against Wake. Maybe it would be February 8th at Clemson. Maybe they'll just no-show against somebody and lay an egg. But you know what Shire will do? He'll do the thing he learned from Coach K. He'll take all the trophies and all the pictures and all the chairs out of the locker room, and he'll give you, he'll give them an FU practice where they do nothing but run, and he'll keep them motivated. I just think that Duke is its own entity, that it's basically running its own race here, and it's going to take care of business. It's going to take care of itself regardless of who's in front of them. Yeah,
they're going to have to almost manufacture close games. They need to win close games because you need to learn how to react. Now, the last couple of games they played outside of the league against big competition, they won those games. It's funny. They've lost twice this year. Kansas and Kentucky had the ball with a chance to win both games.
But
had the ball.
Those games, though, show you the growth of Cooper Flagg.
100%.
Because in those games, he had the ball in his hands and turned it over.
Yep.
And I think that he has learned from that. And you go back to the Auburn game where they had a chance to crap it away too and didn't. I just think that it's part of the learning process, those games.
Yeah, it's a good thing they have Isaiah Evans, who they really weren't going to play until he said, I'm going to win this game for you, and now I'm in your rotation. And that was the Auburn game, the Isaiah Evans game. To Carolina, Brett, before we say goodbye. I think there's the bones of at least 2/3 of a good basketball team. Even if Davis doesn't become a good shooter again, if he goes along,
he did it at Wake Forest the other day. By the way,
it was 3 of 9.
He made 3, which is 2 more than he usually makes.
That's true. Elliot Cadeau looked like he has gotten over whatever Elliot Cadeau was dealing with emotionally. I'm not talking he's had problems, but he gets in his own head. He gets frustrated and gets in his own head. Looks like he's come out on the other side of that. Ian Jackson had 2 tough games offensively, but I have no doubts that Ian Jackson will be one of their best 2 or 3 players the rest of the year. Drake Powell is good. Seth Trimble is a really good piece for them. So those guards are good enough to be a really good basketball team. I'm just not sure that the rest of that team can take advantage of it.
No, they're a badly constructed team. Their best big man is a 6'6" guy, in Van Allen Lubin. Maybe he's about 6'7", and he can't. I mean, he really works hard and he does a good job, but he can't defend the post. And Jalen Washington, has shown he can block some shots, but he's not a low post guy. He's a stretch 4, and Jalen Withers is just kind of withered away.
What happened? He was so much better last year.
Yeah, I mean, look, I'll go back to the Stanford game. Get an offensive rebound on your next to last possession, and the game is over. And they couldn't. They don't rebound. And right. Wake Forest, it was glaring as well. And then the other thing too is Hubert. I don't know that Hubert is doing a great job with this crew. In the Stanford game, Drake Powell, who's 6'9", and at least would have given him a better shot at defending, Raymond, was on the bench for the last 10 minutes of the game. Didn't see it a minute. And then Jalen Washington wasn't on the court for the final possession. So, you gotta manage your roster a little bit better. And then they're getting 0 from Cade Tyson. And when he's on the court, he's a serious liability. So yeah, the guards are really good. The guards are the makings of a very good NCAA tournament team. But I don't know that this is an NCAA tournament team because their front court's not very good.
Here's what's funny. If you put Eastern Michigan uniforms on this team, we would all say, oh, man, you don't want to face these guys in the tournament. You don't want to see them pop up as an 11 seed next to your name. That's what, but they're not. It's North Carolina. It's just very different because their guards are legitimately good. I love,
and they'll win when the shots go down. The problem is the shots haven't gone down with frequency, and when they don't, they can't rebound and they can't defend the post.
Yeah, R.J. Davis is still under 30% from three-point range. Although it's been getting better, he's still under 30%. Brett Friedlander, about a 33% three-point shooter. That's my scouting report. Saturday Road, B. Fried, ACC. Thank you, my man.
Anytime, Adam.